Simon, as I said, you're the global head of security labs at Hewlett-Packard. Hewlett-Packard, obviously, very well-known hardware manufacturing company, but it's not one that springs to mind immediately when we're discussing cybersecurity matters. Printers are connected devices, probably the first connected devices that have entered our homes. So it does make sense, but cybersecurity is actually a very central concern and field of play for HP. I had the chance to talk about it with you. Could you tell us about the place cybersecurity holds for HP, and what you do in the field?
Sure. Thanks very much, Adrian. And first of all, I deeply appreciate the translators, and I apologize that I can't deliver this in French, and I hope you can bear with me.
Don't, because as I keep saying, it's the International Cybersecurity Forum, and we're here. Feel free.
But yeah, okay, as you said, so my role, yeah, I'm a researcher, so I think very much about the future, and so where cyber's evolving, and it's evolving very fast, how we pay attention to that evolving world. So I'll come back to that, but to your question about, why HP in this world, actually the panel did a very nice job. Usually I have to explain, we feel very much fellow travelers on this kind of cybersecurity journey with the cybersecurity industry, which is usually focused on how do we detect and recover and have a lot of software mechanisms to do that. But as the panel's pointed out, increasingly we rely on those connected devices, and all those connected devices are not equal things in the way we can run software security over them in order to do the kinds of things we need to do to keep things resilient. So I guess we've learned this most, in the PC industry. For good or bad, that's been one of the most attacked ecosystems and endpoints for many decades. So that's where we kind of learnt a lot of the principles about, you need to do secure by design, secure by default, make it work, but also resilient by design. We need the ability we know these devices get attacked, we know they get compromised, we need to design in mechanisms to help them recover at source, but also help people who are managing, the professionals managing fleets of devices, get them back and up and going again. So this is something we've learned from the School of Hard Knocks, if you like, in the PC ecosystem. And then we can bring that to bear as we think about printers, 3D printers, so then we're going, other things that enterprises run, but also as we go to the future factory, as the panel were describing, that future of connected devices is much broader, and we need, and I think we welcome the kind of Cyber Resilience Act in that sense of helping us pay attention to what manufacturers need to do more broadly in what we've learned in other places. So,
given the scope and footprint of HP, your experience in managing endpoint devices is massive. What's your take on the situation today, and what does it inform you as to the future threats and challenges that our devices and infrastructures are going to face? What do you imagine they're going to face?
Yeah, there's a few things I'll point to. Still one of the most massive attack vectors is clickbait. I'm always tempted by the wrong click. I download the wrong thing. We can't always protect users from those mistakes, and then you need ways to actually contain, protect, and recover from end-user devices. So we see that quite strong. The panel also spoke about upstream. I guess the phrase I'm more used to hearing is shift left. The attackers have shifted left as we've got better at defending the user interface and the hardware stack, the operating system. They shift left. They go upstream, whether it's SolarWinds, where we're attacking the supply chain of software. We see that as well in hardware. How do we shift left as manufacturers to put better security mechanisms earlier in the life cycle so that we can keep ahead? But the panel spoke to that well. And I think similarly, we also see as we do a good job in the operating system, things go below the operating system. So we see a lot more firmware attacks on the hardware. And now this comes back to not all devices are equal. It's not just a case of being able to put software mechanisms on. It matters what the manufacturers have done to make that device serviceable, securable, and make that security manageable as well. So.
You've managed IoT devices for decades. There's an exponential increase of number of IoT devices, and it's only the beginning. What are the lessons that we can learn from your experiences? What are the main challenges that you expect our networks and the infrastructure will face? And what's your take on the framework? I mean, I guess you mentioned it quite positively, but that the EU is putting in place. How do you see HP operating within that framework?
I think, I guess the easiest lesson to speak to is the printer example, which was an IoT. It's a computing device with some actuators for printing paper, but it sits on the network. And it's interesting, for a long time, we'd go around to a lot of enterprises who had endpoint device policies, which usually meant their PCs and their mobile devices, and they would be patching them and looking after them. But of course, printers are on our endpoint devices as well, and they weren't always paying the same kind of attention. So I think that's one of the reasons we welcome the kind of act, is like, no, pay attention. These things are on the network. They have the same kind of capabilities, more in some cases, and they're sensitive devices. We need to be paying the same kind of attention that we've always been paying to the kind of end user devices. So we see that with printing, and it's happening less, but it still happens. And as we move to, I guess, what you might think of the cyber physical world, the factory world, we see that more in spades, because I think there's more capability, more possibilities of the risks that we see when you start having cyber physical systems where the actuators, they're in a different world from just the cyber realm, and different things can happen, and we're still learning what the risks are there. So paying attention early and doing it in a joined up way absolutely matters, yeah.
It's cybersecurity has always been at the forefront of software manufacturers, obviously. Less so hardware manufacturers, but this is changing. HP was a trailblazer in a way in that field. Do you keep open dialogue with the industry, with hardware manufacturers? How do you collaborate with these players, with the industry at large, and what direction are you trying to maybe lead the industry, or what are you sharing with them? What direction are you going in, the direction you're going into?
Yeah, and I'll go back that phrase, fellow travelers. I do see us in that way. It is absolutely a team sport, getting security right. You know, we're one part of the ecosystem, a big one, because we're a manufacturer. We put a lot of footprint out of those connected devices, but we rely on our supply chain. We rely on the software vendors. We need to help our software vendors understand the mechanisms we're building into our devices so that they can make the best use of them, so that you can detect early, recover at scale, take advantage of protection that doesn't work, that works, even if you're not detecting or modeling the attacks. These are all things that can be built into the hardware. It has longer life cycles, because it's not like DevOps where you can just release a new application. There are life cycles that have to be paid to account, so there's a lot of work that has to go into tying these things together so that when you bring something out, it is usable, and so absolutely, that team sport plays, and this is where the encouragement, if you like, of the incentive structures around acts like this absolutely help the different players work together on that, so yeah.
Well, Simon Shiu from HP, thank you very much.
Thank you.